Welcome to another 21 Hats Dashboard. I'm Lauren Feldman, and I'm here with Gene Marks. Hello, Gene.
Hey, Lauren. It's been a while.
It has been a while. It's great to see you again. Appreciate your taking the time.
Yeah, it's mostly my fault. I've been traveling a lot, so,
As usual, traveling a lot, I might add.
Yeah.
Gene, you've been writing a lot lately, despite all your travels, about all kinds of things, but especially about why AI isn't quite ready for prime time. And anyone who's been paying any attention at all knows you got a point there. There are always issues in the news. To be honest, I wonder if sometimes the negatives are overplayed. But
Yeah.
I want to hear what you have to say. What you wrote a piece for Forbes specifically about the image generation services. But tell me what you're thinking.
Yeah. So first of all, this conversation, Lauren, is yes, there's two themes to this. It's not exactly ready for prime time, but there are some things that are ready for prime time and are of business use. And I'd like to, hopefully we can cover that in this conversation as well, because
Sure.
I don't want this to be like like we're just shitting on AI, because that's not the case here. You know what I mean? But there is some reason why there's been recent studies and recent articles in the New York Times and other places about Workslop and, AI still hallucinating and whatever. So,
That Workslop phrase is everywhere now.
yeah, it's everywhere. And for good reason, because, people are trying to use this stuff and they wind up spending more time fixing AI than if they just did it themselves. And so I kind of, my story was similar on the image generation thing. I wrote a piece for Forbes. And if you're listening to this conversation, you can go to Forbes and see it, because I put the images up there on the piece, and I just did like a simple prompt saying, hey, listen, I used Google Gemini, ChatGPT's image creator, and Grok. Okay, which is, by the way, Grok has been great. But okay, so I used those three AI assistants. Obviously, there are a bunch of others out there, and I gave it a prompt. I said, create an image of a Yorkshire Terrier hitting a home run in a baseball game, because I thought that would be like kind of fun to do. And we own a Yorkshire Terrier, so it's close to my heart. And so it did, and it generated them within seconds, under a minute. And each one, and the Yorkshire Terriers were very cute in all of the three photos or the three images, very AI looking but cute. And but they were all wrong. They weren't quite there. I mean, one showed the Yorkshire Terrier pointed like facing us, like with his back to home plate. Another was like, it was like standing on home plate, looking in the wrong direction. Another didn't have a bat at all. The ball was just sitting in front of home plate. You know what I mean? And then I went back and I started prompting again, like, no, please, have the Yorkshire Terrier batting on the right-handed side of the plate, and pointed out to hitting the ball out towards the fence as a home run, and it still generated it wrong. It was like the ball was going in the right direction, or it just didn't listen to me, and still had the Yorkshire Terrier pointed in the wrong direction, or it generated an image and like there were other dogs on the field all of a sudden, except they weren't even in the right positions. It just didn't look right. You know what I mean? And I want to just say, first of all, like, because you and I, we're the same age. Like, we didn't have any of this stuff. So we're all still like amazed by this stuff. It is amazing that you can actually go onto these platforms and give it a prompt, and within seconds it generates like this image. You're like, oh my God. I mean, it's really amazing, but it's still not right, Lauren. That's the story of AI in 2025. Like, if you're a business and you're like, hey, I want to create this specific image that I want to use on my website or in my business materials or marketing, brochure, whatever, you want it to be exactly the way you want it to be. It's your business. This isn't a post on Facebook. And it's just, you can't do it. And I was doing prompt after prompt. Now, listen, maybe I wasn't given the right prompts. What can I tell you? I'm not a prompt genius. Maybe I need to call in a developer from OpenAI to sit there and, get underneath the whatever and do it. You know what I mean? So, but it just wasn't right. You know what I mean? And I just want people to know that it's just, you can play with it. It's still a toy, but it just doesn't get there. The other examples that I give is, and I didn't give this in the Forbes article, but Google has something called VO, which is their video creation tool, and ChatGPT or OpenAI has got something called Sora. And again, it's unbelievable. I mean, you give it a prompt, create a video of two woolly mammoths, walking through the snow with willow trees above them and a cloudless sky, whatever. And it'll take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then it creates this video for you. And it's like everything else. It's like, oh my God, this is unbelievable stuff. But it's still not exactly right. And you see these videos online, and they're just people are playing with them. But I always think to myself, Lauren, like these tools have now been out for a couple of years. I mean, there's new versions. They've been getting better and better.
Yep.
But I know for a fact that there are countless young kids out there that are creators that can take these tools. They don't have any money, so they can't go to Hollywood and make movies. But with these video, generation tools, they can create their own stories and some awesome, films, and it's unbelievable. And I believe that day is coming, but it's certainly not here yet.
Let alone a small business making use of it in its marketing or whatever.
Let's use that as an example. Like a small business hires one of these kids out of an art school or whatever and say, hey, here's Google VO, create a really cool video and show people from my company going and doing work, with our customers or whatever they come out. And like, you're not seeing it. You're really not seeing any of it. Like, why are we not seeing this yet? I mean, it's not, I know it's relatively new, but it's been around. And I think the evidence is clear. It's just, it's not ready yet, for businesses to use. It looks goofy. I don't know if you saw there was this ad in the New York mayor race with, that Andrew, what Cuomo put out against Mamdani. And it was like this AI generated video. And everybody's been talking about it because it was whatever. And I looked at the video. So first of all, it's like, you can look it up anywhere and see it. And it looks very AI. You can always identify these things pretty quickly. But then secondly, I'm like, all right, it looks pretty good, but I'm betting they put a lot of money behind this. Like they probably had developers working on the code behind the scenes for all I know. You know what I mean? Or because it looked that good. So I guess if you spend enough, you can get it to some level of accuracy. But I don't know if the typical small business owner is going to do that. And that just defines where we are with AI. And I'll stop right there. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Now you just got me curious. What's the positive side that you were referring to that you were going to share?
Yeah, I actually do have some good positives where like AI in action that really, does work, and it's getting better and better. We all know the searching, that you can do now, and that's improving and getting that much more accurate. But I will say, like, if you have Copilot or Google Sheets, their AI assistants, if you have Office or Google Sheets, the AI assistants, Copilot for Microsoft and Gemini for Google, they're getting better and better. And I do have clients that one of the better Copilot applications is for PowerPoint. And, I've tried it out myself. You can, open up Copilot inside of PowerPoint, and you can connect documents to it. And you can say, create a PowerPoint presentation based on these documents. And it does a pretty good job of it. It does it like 80% right. You still have to go into PowerPoint and make some changes yourself or ask it to make some changes. You're still going to have to tweak it. You're still going to have to spend some time. But I think if we all as business people lower our expectations, like it's not going to change the world. It's not going to eliminate people. It's not going to do that. But it will make you more productive. Like the PowerPoint presentations I had to do will do it. What it would take me 4 hours to do is now taking me like half the amount of time because it's doing a lot of the legwork for me. And I think that's valuable. That's real life working.
I agree. And that's kind of the point that I was going to make. I think there's a distinction to be drawn between the types of jobs people give AI. And I think I haven't seen this articulated, and I'm not doing a good job of it myself, but let me try. I think it's one thing if you're relying on it to generate either research or images or anything like that. You're asking it to start from scratch and create something. That's where you get the hallucination and the issues. But if you're feeding it your information, your data, and asking it to analyze that data or create something just within the confines of that data, I think it does a really good job. So if you're analyzing a business strategy, it's less likely you're going to get a hallucination there. I mean, it's not like
Yeah,
you're just going to do whatever it tells you to do,
yeah,
but you're probably going to get, if you put good information in, you're probably going to get something worthwhile back. Same thing with marketing materials. If
yeah,
you're asking it to create a blog post out of the information that you give it, or if you're responding to a request for a proposal and it's creating a proposal for you based on how you run your business and what you do, and it spits out a proposal, it's probably a pretty good draft that you can work with and not likely to have these kinds of hallucinations in it.
yeah.
I don't know.
You're 100%
I don't know
right.
how you draw the distinction between those two types of job, but I think there is one, don't you?
There is, and to me, it's all about just productivity. And people are all up in arms about AI replacing, workers. And yeah, at some levels, like basic, computer programmers are going to be replaced by this stuff. Some customer service jobs are going to be replaced. I get that. But really, for the, for at least, for the foreseeable future, the smartest employees will be embracing this stuff and just being that much more productive. Like if I worked in a marketing department at a company, and I was doing PowerPoints, for example, as part of like what we do. I would be expert at using Copilot, so I could like produce 10 times the amount of PowerPoints in the same amount of time, and I'm that much more valuable to my employer. You're still needed because somebody's got to use this stuff to make it work the right way. I'll give you another example, like really good business use of AI. Google Meet just recently has introduced its translation feature, and I've tried it out, and it's unbelievable. I mean, you turn it on and you can meet with, say, I think it supports like 30 languages, and you talk to somebody in a completely different, in English. They speak Spanish. They speak back to you in Spanish. It either gets subtitled or a human voice will speak for you, speak for them in English. And it's like, I found that to be like, it's a little thing, but it's big, I mean, like now
Sure.
you talk to people on a regular Google Meet call and you don't have to worry about language differences anymore. And I think that is, I think that's like extraordinary stuff. And then I'll give you one other like application that I've used it for. Like I use Copilot in OneDrive, and that's Microsoft's where you store stuff. And like we had an ad out for a developer, and I got a bunch of resumes in the ad. I placed it on like Craigslist, and I know homicidal maniacs. I get that, but it's a developer, so they're all homicidal maniacs. Trust me. So anyway, I got like 20 resumes in, and I put them in a folder in OneDrive, and OneDrive has a Copilot, and I go to Copilot, and I'm like, review these review these, and then come back and create a table for me showing name and address and experience, and then sort it by experience. And in 2 minutes, it did that. Like it would have taken me to go through 20 resumes and build a spreadsheet. It would have taken me probably, I don't know, an hour or two to do. It did it for me like in 2 minutes and accurately. So there's that. Okay. Then and again, jump in if I'm rambling here, Lauren. Okay.
Well, I was
But
going to say, you also wrote a piece not too long ago about an AI platform called Slang that
yeah,
restaurants use to
thank
take
you.
reservations. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it doesn't work perfectly. I'm sure there are hiccups, but
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
It's easy to imagine that it's making restaurants more efficient.
Yeah, and I'm so glad I was even going to remember to bring that up. Yeah, you're right. I did write about that for Forbes, and I interviewed a few people that use it, including the company's founder. They have, I forget, a few thousand implementations at restaurants around the country. And they're smart. You call up the number, Slang picks up the call. It's a bot that's answering the call. However, you can configure it so that the bot says to the caller, I'm a bot. If you want to speak to a human, just press 0 and you can speak to a human. So you don't have to feel like you're going through bot hell, and and then but it says, but I can get this job done faster, just faster if you want to work with me. And then, when would you like to make a reservation? And it understands your voice. And we all know AI voice has gotten better and better, recognizing us when we talk into our phones and whatever. And it makes restaurant reservations for people. And then if people have more complex questions, dietary needs or parking or things like that, it then transfers you over to a human. And it's pretty good. And they're these, it ain't cheap. It was like $450 a month per, for a restaurant to use. But the restaurant owners that I talked to were like, we're not getting rid of anybody. It's just that we have a host, and he or she's very busy dealing with customers, and then they're getting calls for people to make reservations. And they're like, the more that we can free up their time so they can be FaceTime with our customers there and help them, the better off we are. And they found it to be of huge value. And so there's another example of like, yeah, this is like really happening right now in small examples, but really tangible. Let me give you another one.
Please.
I mean, ChatGPT. Now, first of all, if you're running a business and you're not using an AI assistant, you're nuts. You need to be doing it. I mean, you need to be coughing up to $20 a month for whatever their pro or business version is or whatever. There's ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, Perplexity, Claude, and Grok and again, a year ago, I don't think I would have recommended half of them, but they're all good options. And there's other ones that are out, many others that are out there too, but just using ChatGPT. I mean, once you pay for the business version of ChatGPT, which it gives advanced reasoning and expanded messaging and projects and all that, I just want to make sure that people realize, number one, if you don't trust first of all, you can upload now any photos, documents, PDFs, files to it for analysis. So now it'll handle all of that stuff. That's number one. Number two is you can speak to it on the mobile app, which is great. So you can be walking around, driving around and talking back and forth about an issue or a problem. Or
have you done that, Gene?
Yeah, like a mental patient. I'm driving around the city with the ChatGPT and I'm talking to it because I'm like, I have a thing on my mind or whatever, and it's answering me back. It's good. It's like, it's whatever. So you got that.
Did you ask it why the Phillies lost to the Dodgers?
I've had baseball conversation with ChatGPT. Lauren, I told you before we started, don't bring up the Phillies, okay? Stay away from this, okay? So anyway, if you don't trust the answers in ChatGPT, there's the pro version is something called deep research. So you ask questions of it and it will take minutes to answer. And the reason why it's taking longer is because it's going through a deeper process to really validate its responses to you. Now, most of us have short attention spans, so we want quick answers. But I just want to say, if you've got an issue with, you really want to get more accurate answers, they have this deep research function, which is more accurate. They have an agent mode. So, Lauren, I've created agents. Like I have a client. If I told you this, you should interview this woman. She's great. She's a woman-owned business in Wasilla, Alaska, a construction company, right? She's got like 40 people. And I've been working with her for the past 6 months.
Did she once run for a vice president of the United States?
She did not. She did not. Okay. Of course, the typical Lauren's got to get political. No, we're going to keep that out. We're going to keep it out.
I think Wasilla is the town, wasn't?
I don't even remember. But she's never seen Russia, so she doesn't have any foreign policy experience. Anyway, she's great story, construction company, whatever. Anyway, in ChatGPT, I created an agent, and I said every Friday, send me 5 stories that impact the construction industry in Wasilla, Alaska. And every Friday, it sends me stories. Now, sometimes it can't find 5 and it'll tell me, but it'll send me a few stories. And then I email her and I'll be like, hey, I heard there was this project going on here. I heard whatever. And she's like, oh my God, how'd you know that? That's fantastic. Thanks for letting me know. Like she thinks I'm a genius because I'm like telling her what's going on in her hometown. It's just ChatGPT giving me updates. It's the same thing when I do, I cover small business. So I asked ChatGPT, Grok, and Gem, they all have agents. And I'm like, send me an email at the end of every week with 10 business stories that impact small businesses in the country. And they do. And I get these list of 10 stories. And then it helps me figure out what to write about myself or talk about or whatever. These are agents. They can create calendar items for you as well. That's little stuff. Productivity is good stuff. Do you know what I mean?
I'm going to call up every woman-owned construction business in Wasilla, Alaska, and let the owner know that she could be doing this herself.
Don't tell her, okay? She's like 5 hours behind. She's not even thinking. She doesn't even know. She never heard of 21 Hats, although I should tell her about your.
Yes, you should.
I should. She would be a great addition to your community. Anyway, one final thing on ChatGPT. People don't realize that because you don't dig down into it. You can connect it. You can connect ChatGPT to Dropbox, Gmail, Google, your calendar, Google Calendar, your Outlook calendar, HubSpot, Slack, Google Drive, SharePoint, Outlook, Teams.
Okay, I'm going to expose my ignorance, but give me a few examples. Dropbox is the one that stopped me first. Why would you connect it to Dropbox? What can you do?
I'm so glad you asked that, because I connected it to we use Dropbox. That's our what we share like in our company. So I'm budgeting right now for 2026. And I'm like, take a look at the last 2 years of presentations that I gave in this folder. And what was the average presentation fee that I charged? And it went through all of the presentations and came back to me with its average. And then I ask it questions like, what presentations did I do in California in the past 3 years? Then I have another folder of all of our quotes and proposals that we give out for our CRM clients. And some of them are specific. So we had a prospective client that we were doing on, like a potential HubSpot project. So I said, find all the quotes that we did HubSpot and give me a summary of the type of procedures that we performed. And it looked into my data and came back to me and told me what that was. You know what I mean? So it's not just the stuff that's on the internet, but now I'm querying my own files and spreadsheets and documents in Dropbox if I have a specific question about that. And I can see if I'm a construction company and I've got a bid for a building, and I say, okay, go through this folder in Dropbox, find all the similar bids that I've done, recommend what materials did I use before, maybe recommend other materials based on your ChatGPT. Tell me if you think I could use better materials, but it's all basing it off of your own company's information. And you can be doing that by just connecting it to those services.
How much technical skill does that require to connect ChatGPT to Dropbox?
Zero. You literally go into the setup and configuration for ChatGPT, and then you'll see an option for enabled apps and connectors. And then you'll see a list of those apps. And then you say, okay, connect to Dropbox. It will ask you for your username and password. We can talk about security in a minute if you want, but it asks you for your username and password. And then you get permission from Dropbox. You have to give it permission for ChatGPT to access it. And then it's accessed. That's it.
What about to set up the agent?
Not at all. You talk to it. So you go again, if you're there at ChatGPT Plus and you hit the drop down on the main screen, one of your options is agent mode. And you choose that and you type in your request. Send me an email every week showing me this, or, make sure I'm alerted when I have a calendar, issue. And the examples I'm giving you are so minor. I mean, like, just ask ChatGPT or Google and say, give me some examples of how I can be using agent mode in ChatGPT. And it will give you a whole bunch of other ideas I'm not smart enough to give you right now that will help you. And then the other thing in ChatGPT that I use is they have projects. So, by the way, I use ChatGPT, and I use Grok, but they all have this stuff.
They call it different names, but it's the same stuff.
Yeah. But with projects, if I'm working on a piece and I'm doing research for this piece, and then, I could do various chats and then just save them under a project for that piece so that I have one. It's just an organization thing. You can go to that one area and see all the, all your chats there in one area. So you've got that organized in that way. But that's again, it's this whole conversation about productivity, and that's where I see AI being used by small businesses that are smart, just in snippets, small stuff.
Well, see, you kind of made the point that I was heading toward myself, which is there's so much conversation about the flaws, the Workslop, the hallucinations. And I think there's this whole world of things out there that, you got to be careful. You got to be smart. You've got to experiment. You got to keep an eye on it. But it can do incredible stuff already.
Well, I'll give you the reason why there's all this attention is being played. Do you know who Andre Karpathy is?
No.
He was one of the founders of OpenAI, okay? And so he's like this AI deep learning genius. And he was literally just interviewed. I forget the name of the podcast, but you can find it if you Google him. It's Karpathy, is Karpathy. So he's interviewed on this tech podcast, and he was talking about agents, okay? So the big tech companies dupe us. They say, oh, it's going to be agents. AI is going to be reconciling accounts and placing orders and, booking your travel and doing all this, behind the scenes. And you just give it a command and away it goes. And this guy is like an AI, one of the founders of OpenAI. He's like, this whole agent thing. It's like it's going to be like a decade before all of this is actually really working well and reliable and useful. But what happens is that big tech, they roll this stuff out, like Microsoft Dynamics. Microsoft rolled out these agents promising all of these functions that AI will do in Dynamics where you won't need people to do it. And it doesn't work very well yet. There are just too many challenges. The data is not good. The technology is not ready. I can't even create a freaking image of a dog hitting a baseball, with AI, let alone relying on it to process my payroll. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even this guy is like, yeah, it's a decades, exercise before agents are really running the show. It's going to happen, but just not yet. And that's why they get pounded for Workslop, because they overpromise, these tech companies, as usual, about what their great technology will do. But it shouldn't stop us from being like, there are parts of AI that small businesses can be using to just help with productivity, to make our people more productive. And my final comment to you, Lauren, is because, and again, this is what I do when I speak. People ask for advice. I'm like, cough up the money and get freaking trained on this stuff. Like we always blow this off. We all know we're using 10% of what Office does. I mean, there are a lot of AI functionalities with Copilot. You don't even know how to use it. So go on LinkedIn, find a Microsoft consultant, so, somebody that specializes, or a ChatGPT consultant. They're all out there. Pay them I don't know, $100, $200 an hour, whatever. Cough up for a few hours of work and have them really teach you about the stuff that you own already, and that you're only using a small. It's like you're driving a car, in Texas in the summer, and you're not using the air conditioning because you don't know where the button is. So, you should be learning this stuff, and your employees should be trained on this stuff so that they can be more productive and less fearful of AI, and more confident in their jobs, and more balanced as well, because they'll be getting more stuff done during the day and less stressed, hopefully. AI in small portions will help people do this stuff already. It does have use. So that's my speech.
What else are you working on, Gene?
What else am I writing this week, Lauren? I haven't decided actually what I'm going to write about for the Inquirer this week. It's sort of up in the air. I'm working on I've been interviewing people about co-ops as an alternative to ESOPs, where if you're a very small business, you can have a cooperatively owned business with your employees.
I did a podcast about that recently. Great topic.
You're kidding?
No.
Oh, I did not know that. I'll have to look at that. I'll listen to that because I'm like kind of knee deep into it. And I guess you talked about there's employee co-ops, right? There's purchasing co-ops. There's consumer co-ops.
Yeah, all very different. But we talked about worker cooperatives as a potential succession plan, exit strategy for a business owner.
What was your takeaway?
It was really interesting. I think it's going to do well. I think it scares people because a lot of people emphasize the idea of democracy, that the worker co-ops result in one man, one vote situations to run a business. And there's a certain amount of confusion about that. And that scares a lot of business owners, especially if they plan on remaining with the company even after they sell it to the co-op. But what my understanding, and this could be flawed, is that the format is very flexible. So if you want everybody weighing in and voting on every decision, I don't know why anybody would want that, but you could create that. But you can structure it the way you want. And basically you can have the people you want making the decisions you want them to make. And you can do that in a way that's much less expensive, much less bureaucratic than an ESOP. Doesn't have the tax advantages, but does have other advantages. Yeah,
I'm fighting from the tax side. It does not have the same advantages. But then again, ESOPs have a lot of disadvantages. You don't want to sugarcoat it. There's a lot of costs for an ESOP and compliance and all of that. So that's interesting. Okay, well, I'm glad you told me that. So yeah, I'm kind of like in the middle of talking to people and have a couple of interviews scheduled next week. So whatever I learn, I will write about.
I will look forward to that.
Thank you.
Gene Marks is a CPA who writes weekly on small business for The Guardian, The Hill, The Philadelphia Inquirer, The Washington Times, The Chicago Daily Herald, Forbes, and Entrepreneur. You can also hear him on ABC Radio's Eye on the World with John Batchelor. Gene hosts 2 small business podcasts with Paychex Corporation and The Hartford. Thank you, Gene.
Thank you, Lauren. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a great weekend, everybody.